let's face it, you need training to be able to do most things in life, don't you? Whether that be play a sport, follow a particular career, learn to drive a car, or learn any new skill, really. Training is involved. You've got to learn before you can do it. But do you need training to be able to rent a property? Surely it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Surely it's as simple as finding a place you like, whether that be a unit or a house or whatever, one that you can afford, filling out the paperwork and hopefully being approved, signing a lease, and then moving in. Simple as that. How hard can it be? Well, truth is, it can be a minefield. And in a tight rental market, knowing exactly what to do, knowing exactly what your rights are, but also what your obligations are, can make the difference between finding a roof over your head or potentially, these days, God forbid, sleeping in your car or under a bridge. Well, there's an organisation called the Tenancy Skills Institute that not all that long ago developed a training package for tenants that would ultimately lead to more successful tenancies. The keys to success were tenants who were fully aware of their rights and responsibilities, tenants who knew how to communicate effectively with their property managers, who knew how to clean and maintain the property that they'd rented, and to manage their finances. And the Tenancy Skills Institute is delivering courses in our part of the world at the moment on how to be a better tenant and everything you need to know. And it is well worthwhile signing up for one. It won't cost you a thing. Let's find out a little bit more. Paul Tommasini is CEO of the Tenancy Skills Institute, and he joins me now. Paul Tommasini, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Paul, firstly, what exactly is the Tenancy Skills Institute?
So the Tenancy Skills Institute is a training course for people pre and during their tenancy. So it's really about creating people that are ready for tenancies and that do really well in their tenancy.
Now, some people might be listening and thinking, how hard can it be? But what aspects of being a first-time tenant can be complex these days?
Look, we do have that assumption that renting is easy, but the statistics show that it's not. And too many tenancies fail because of things that could be otherwise prevented. The introduction to renting, which is the first one we've got here in Toowoomba, it's really designed to give people the basic understanding of the tenancy process and how to go about it. Our longer course, the skill sets for successful tenancies, is really about giving people all of the skills and actually assessing those skills so that when they finish that course they end up with a certificate and they can take it to many real estate agents in the area and put in as part of their application.
And does that help now? Will they be not given preferential treatment, but everyone knows that it's a very tight market, any advantage you can have you really should play, and does that help in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. Reports back from our students say that when they present their certificate it does help with their applications. The other thing that our students tell us though is that the knowledge that they get, they actually approach their applications and they approach that whole tenancy process in a different way to what they would have before.
Okay.
You see, we all get advice from people and sometimes that advice may not be the most accurate advice. Our course is built based on advice and input direct from property managers, so the people who are managing those properties every day and the people who are ultimately assessing the applications. So we have that knowledge from the industry to be able to make sure that people who are looking to apply for a tenancy, particularly in a tight market like it is now, are doing everything they can to make sure that their application stands out.
Okay. Based on that, what would be some of the biggest errors that first-time tenants or even experienced tenants make in that application process?
Yeah, probably the biggest one we hear about is incomplete applications. Now, incomplete applications in a tight rental market, you're just simply not going to be looked at. Because if there's 20 or 30 applications there, 5 of them are filled in correctly and 25 of them aren't, those 25 generally won't be looked at because there's so many good applications or there's so many applications that are complete. So that's a really important thing, and particularly if it's an online application process, because there's potentially not even a person seeing that application if the application's not filled in correctly.
Right, okay.
And secondly to that would be looking at affordability. So there's a general rule, around 30% 30% of income. Sometimes that changes a little bit, but if people are applying for properties that are well and truly out of their affordability, they're not going to get a look in on those properties.
Yeah. Although these days, more and more, though, people are having to break out of that golden rule of 30% of their salary or their wages. So is that rule more relaxed these days?
So it's not a legislative rule, it's a way of determining affordability. And I think largely there has to be some flexibility around that now, because the rental prices are so much higher than what they were, say, 3 or 4 years ago. If you are applying for a property that's outside of your 30%, it's really good to be able to demonstrate through a cover letter how you can actually afford that. So for example, if you don't have credit cards, or if you don't have other debts that other people have, if you've demonstrated that you've already been doing it in your previous property, all that stuff can help.
Okay. Do you also educate tenants on what is right and what is wrong in the actual process as well, in terms of there can be unscrupulous agents and certainly landlords who will, try to sort of wheel out practices that really aren't legal? Do you sort of guide them through that as well?
Yeah, so we do talk about rights and responsibilities. That's our second module that we cover. And probably the most important thing in that is about finding your source of truth for your advice. And we look at things like the Residential Tenancies Authority or the Q-Stars program and give people information about that, so that at any point in their tenancy they can access the information that's correct and accurate at that time. It's really important that if something doesn't feel right, to go and get advice, but to make sure that person you're getting advice from is someone who actually knows what the legislation says. It can be really easy to get onto Facebook or any other social media, put a question out there and have a heap of armchair experts jump in and give you opinions, which may or may not be based in fact, maybe more opinions.
Okay. And I would imagine that would apply for not just applying and being successful in getting a property, but the ongoing maintaining of a good tenancy relationship with you and the landlord. There are some things that are and some things that aren't acceptable in terms of inspections and notice given and that sort of thing.
Definitely. And the RTA has some really good fact sheets online and has an advice line as well that people can contact. It's really important to make sure that you are getting that correct advice and keeping that line of communication open with your property manager. I think one of the biggest things we found when we first started doing the Tenancy Skills Institute work about 6 years ago was majority of tenancies that were failing, communication was a really key part of those tenancies breaking down.
Communication as in just not responding to emails, or not just trying to maintain that contact just for continuity?
Yeah, look, it's about finding that balance of communication. So it's about respectful and open communication, particularly up front, so building that connection with your property manager, not contacting them constantly, but during inspections and things like that, having that contact with your property manager and making sure that when you're not sure that you ask.
Right. Is there, or will there be in the future, an element of educating landlords as well, or do you take it purely from the side of the tenant?
So this work's all about educating tenants so that we have better educated tenants going into rentals. The real estate industry and real estate peaks generally will educate investors, so that's not something that we really cover off on.
Well, you've got Introduction to Renting. There are sessions here in Toowoomba, 9th and 30th of February, and then again on the 11th and 12th of April. What are the cost of sessions like this?
So all of our courses are free. They're fully funded by the state government.
Okay, brilliant. So all you have to do is register.
Yep, just register online. For those who can't make it to one of those sessions, we do have online options for courses as well. So for people who might be working and daytime things just simply don't suit, we do have those online options. I'd recommend, if you can get into a session, the sessions are quite valuable because you have the access to a trainer. So if you're not quite sure and if you're not really understanding, or you just want some extra advice, you've got someone there who teaches this day in, day out.
Yeah. And there are Zoom sessions as well if people perhaps can't get along to the physical session, the 1st and 22nd of March, 10 till 2:30. I would imagine there's a limit to how many people can log on for those.
The Zoom sessions, we can fit quite a few into those. So
okay.
Yeah, they don't oversubscribe.
Okay. I guess just finally, at the moment the rental market is so tight, people are looking for some sort of silver bullet that they might get that might put them ahead of the competition. Do you need to warn people that there is no easy route? It just seems to be getting harder, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, look, I'd say in a rental market like we have at the moment, where vacancy rates are so tight, there are lots and lots of good people who are missing out on properties because there's multiple applications for each property. What I'd say is continue on, don't take that personally, because it's not necessarily a reflection on you as an individual or even your application. Seek feedback on ways in which your application can be strengthened, and come along to one of our courses and get some really good insights and some good tips, which will hopefully help to put your application ahead of the pack.
Paul, fascinating. I never knew that such courses were available, and I'm sure a lot of people listening were in the same boat. So really terrific to scratch the surface of that. Love to talk to you again when there's different courses coming up. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Paul Tommasini there. He's CEO of the Tenancy Skills Institute. They deliver skill sets for successful tenancies, dollars and cents, free tenancy skills courses, fully funded by Queensland Government, so they won't cost you a cent, which is well worth taking advantage of. And then again later this month, they're coming back to Toowoomba on the 29th and 30th of February. The Toowoomba Housing Hub from 9:30 till 2:30 p.m. each day, and then the 11th and 12th of April. If you miss this month's sessions, you get another chance in April at the Toowoomba Housing Hub from 9:30 till 2:30 each day. And we mentioned the online ones, the Zoom ones. If it's not convenient to physically get along to one, you can do it on Zoom. And then again in March, 21st and 22nd of March, 10 to 2:30 p.m. daily via Zoom. If you would like more information, give the Tenancy Skills crew a call on 3413 6997. That's 3413 6997. Or you can flick them an email, communityengagement@tenancyskills.com.au. That's communityengagement@tenancyskills.com.au.